Kavanaugh gave his defence speech, I think, if you can call it that. I've not got the setup to put the video footage on there, but I can run audio alongside of it, and I'm going to. And I will be probably stopping it at several points. Okay, let's get going.
Thank you for allowing me to make my statement. I wrote it myself yesterday afternoon and evening. No one has seen a draft or it except for one of my former law clerks.
First off, let's get past the elephant in the room. Already he's coming across very Trumpian, mixed with a character from Superstore USA, Cloud9, the manager, very whiny, difficult to like, pathetic in every sense of the word, mixed with Trumpyism. He seems to want a cookie for writing his own statements. This should be obvious. This is your career. You should have written this yourself. Okay, all right, let's crack on.
This is my statement. Less than 2 weeks ago, Dr. Ford publicly accused me of committing wrongdoing at an event more than 36 years ago when we were both in high school. I denied the allegation immediately, categorically, and unequivocally. All 4 people allegedly at the event, including Dr. Ford's longtime friend, Miss Kaiser, have said they recall no such event. Her longtime friend, Miss Kaiser, said under penalty of felony that she does not know me and does not believe she ever saw me at a party ever.
Okay. Not all 4 people have said that they didn't see you there. Obviously, Blasey Ford did say you were there. She is 100% adamant it was you, even when they tried to belittle her and mock her, saying that she had got a mistaken identity. And Kavanaugh's best mate just says, "Oh, I don't remember." That's a very scumbag way of saying, nah, didn't happen, but if it ever comes out that it did happen, I don't want to be on the record as lying barefaced. So, yeah, no, that's not accurate.
It's the quote from Miss Kaiser's attorney's letter. Quote, simply put, Miss Kaiser does not know Mr. Kavanaugh, and she has no recollection of ever being at a party or gathering where he was present, with or without Dr. Ford. End quote. Think about that fact.
Okay. Tough talk is important in political circles. Tough talk is important in journalistic circles. Think about that is not tough talk, especially coming from someone with the demeanour and the overall presence of Brett Kavanaugh. This is not a tough guy. This is the embodiment of a sellout. Now, I say that because of his past history. I've said it before, but might as well reiterate it. Years ago, a company sued one of their truck drivers. The truck broke down. The guy stayed there for as long as he could. He got frostbite. He ended up leaving, and it saved his life. Everyone agrees if he had stayed, it would have killed him. There's no second view on that. If he had stayed, it would have killed him. Everyone agrees that. But the company suing him said, no, you should have died because you work for us. Kavanaugh is one of the people who sided with the company. He is a sellout. He will do anything for corporations. He does not care about people, and that's why I've had such a grind to bone with this man for a very long time. All right, let's crack on.
The day after the allegation appeared, I told this committee that I wanted a hearing as soon as possible to clear my name.
Okay.
I demanded a hearing.
Let's stop that again. Yes, he demanded a hearing, but he wanted one and done. before Dr. Blasey could get there in time, essentially. And if she couldn't have got there, then everything about her should have been thrown out. That's what he wanted. You can't make this appointment, you're gone forever, we don't bring this ever up again. That's what he wanted, not to be cleared. If he really wanted his name to be cleared, he would have the FBI investigate. It's that simple.
For the very next day. Unfortunately, it took the committee 10 days to get to this hearing. In those 10 long days, as was predictable, and as I predicted, my family and my name have been totally and permanently destroyed by vicious and false additional accusations.
Okay, let's stop there again. It's common, very common, too common, that certainly on the right, if you've done the wrong, you will play the victim. This man has not had to go into hiding. 2 days after Blasey Ford's name was exposed, because let's remember, originally she didn't want to be publicly known about this. 2 days after she was exposed, she had to go into hiding. Her family had to go into hiding because they were getting credible death threats. Kavanaugh has not had that. This is a man coming out trying to act tough and the victim at the exact same time.
The 10-day delay has been harmful to me and my family, to the Supreme Court, and to the country. When this allegation first arose, I welcomed any kind of investigation. Senate,
Liar.
FBI, or otherwise.
Liar.
The committee now has conducted a thorough investigation, and I've cooperated fully. I
Not
know
true.
that any kind of investigation, Senate, FBI, Montgomery County Police, whatever, will clear me. Listen to the people I know. Listen to the people who've known me my whole life. Listen to the people I've grown up with and worked with and played with and coached with and dated and taught and gone to games with and had beers with. And listen to the witnesses who allegedly were at this event 36 years ago. Listen to Miss Kaiser.
Hold up. People at the event and people in colleges and high schools, a lot of them have said, yeah, we heard something happened. Yeah, we heard this happened. Most of the people he went to school and college with said he was one of those typical bros that pull this kind of crap. Now, as far as I'm aware, at the time of recording this, he's not actually raped anyone. But attempted rape, being an all-round scumbag human being, yeah. And those are very, very credible from people who knew him at the time.
She does not know me. I was not at the party described by Dr. Ford. This confirmation
Okay, I keep doing that as if someone else is going to pause the video. He said during an interview that he wasn't at the party, but he was able to recite the exact address that the party was at. I can't remember the exact address of parties that I've been at, and that was a lot more recent than this scenario. But if you didn't go to a party, why would you remember the address so clearly?
Process has become a national disgrace. The Constitution gives the Senate an important role in the confirmation process, but you have replaced advice and consent with search and destroy. Since my nomination in July, there's been a frenzy on the left to come up with something, anything, to block my confirmation.
At this point, I'd like to interject. There are senators on the right and on this committee that have said point blank, even if it is proven to be completely true, even if he did attempt to rape Blasey Ford, even if he was taking part in gang rapes, they would still vote for him. The left, quite frankly, are pathetic and don't do enough. But come out with something like this, no. You can't get away with just saying, no, this is a leftist smear, because the left hasn't got the balls to do that in America. It's unfortunate, and I wish they had, because that's what Republicans do. But they don't. This is a very serious accusation, and it has credible backing.
Shortly after I was nominated, the Democratic Senate leader said he would, quote, oppose me with everything he's got. A Democratic senator on this committee publicly referred to me as evil.
You are.
Evil. Think about that word.
I will. You are.
Said that those who supported me were, quote, complicit in evil. Another Democrat.
Again, for a second, pretending that this is all false, Brett Kavanaugh still sided with a company saying that a trucker should have died rather than leaving the truck unattended. This is a man who puts a company before a human life. There's a lot stronger words I can use than evil.
Democratic senator on this committee said, quote, Judge Kavanaugh is your worst nightmare. A former head of the Democratic National Committee said, quote, Judge Kavanaugh will threaten the lives of millions of Americans for decades to come.
Yes, because you don't put human life before business.
I understand the passions of the moment, but I would say to those senators, your words have meaning.
Good.
Millions of Americans listened carefully to you. Given comments like those, is it any surprise that people have been willing to do anything, to make any physical threat against my family, to send any violent email to my wife, to make any kind of allegation against me?
Okay. First off, I don't agree with death threats. That kind of talk is unacceptable in almost every aspect, and I give a little bit of leeway for gamers who are just talking shit. But when it's like this, no, don't send threats to the wife. But again, Blasey Ford and her entire family had to go into hiding 2 days after she was exposed because they were getting credible death threats. Kavanaugh has not had to do that. If this is true, and I keep saying if because this man is a proven liar, then this is something that needs to be properly dealt with. But these are clearly not death threats so severe that they have to go into hiding, unlike Blasey Ford.
Against my friends to blow me up and take me down. You sowed the wind. For decades to come, I fear that the whole country will reap the whirlwind.
His face is a mix. It's like he's trying to be tough.
Several of the Democratic members of this committee at my hearing a few weeks ago.
On the edge of tears? I don't know.
But at least it was just a good old-fashioned attempt at borking. Those efforts didn't work. When I did at least okay enough at the hearings that it looked like I might actually get confirmed, a new tactic was needed.
He did do okay. I know I'm going to be annoying with this. He did do okay at the hearings, but he did okay at the hearings because a lot of them are Republican senators, and they've said point blank, no matter what, they will vote for Kavanaugh. I'm pretty sure at this point he could come out to be the next Gary Glitter, and they would still vote for this man because he's a Republican and he will do exactly what the donors ask him to do. That is his proven track record. That is my personal issue with this man. And this is before all of these sexual allegations and potential rape charges started.
You were lying in wait and had it ready. This first allegation was held in secret for weeks by a Democratic member of this committee and by staff. It would be needed only if you couldn't take me out on the merits. When it was needed, this allegation was unleashed and publicly deployed over Dr. Ford's wishes. And then, as no doubt was expected, if not planned, came a long series of false last-minute smears designed to scare me and drive me out of the process before any hearing occurred. Crazy stuff. Gangs, illegitimate children, fights on boats in Rhode Island. All nonsense, reported breathlessly.
To be fair, I've not heard those.
Uncritically by the media. This has destroyed my family and my good name. A good name built up through decades of very hard work and public service at the highest levels of the American government.
Decades of doing what companies tell you to do.
This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit, fueled with apparent pent-up anger about President Trump and the 2016 election, fear that has been unfairly stoked about my judicial record, revenge on behalf of the Clintons, and millions of dollars in money from outside.
This drives me crazy. The only people who keep bringing up the Clintons are Republicans. If you stop talking about them, they'll stop turning up. If you stop making them relevant, they'll stop being relevant. I have nothing good to say about Hillary Clinton. But when it comes to this, dear God. Okay, Bill Clinton got impeached, not because of the affair, but because he lied under oath. Kavanaugh grilled, I forget her name off the top of my head, but the woman who Bill was having the consensual affair with. So what? If you stop making the Clintons relevant, they will stop being relevant. Side point just annoys me.
Left-wing opposition groups. This is a circus. The consequences will extend long past my nomination. The consequences will be with us for decades. This grotesque and coordinated character assassination will dissuade competent and good people of all political persuasions from serving our country.
Really won't.
And as we all know, in the United States political system of the early 2000s, what goes around comes around. I am an optimistic guy. I always try to be on the sunrise side of the mountain, to be optimistic about the day that is coming. But today, I have to say that I fear for the future. Last time I was here, I told this committee that a federal judge must be independent, not swayed by public or political pressure. I said I was such a judge, and I ain't.
No, he is not independent. He has shown throughout his entire political career, he will do what his donors tell him to do. He will do what corporations tell him to do. That is not independent, and that does not benefit any country in the world. That benefits corporations and donors. That's it. That's who this man is. Time and time again in his public history, that has been shown. And this whole goes around, comes around thing. In 2012, Dr. Blasey Ford was in therapy with her husband. This came up in therapy. Now, unless Blasey Ford is an amazing seer and can see into the future, which, let's face it, if she could, pretty sure she would have got the lottery numbers. But unless that was just a big ploy, this is very, very credible, and in my opinion, happened. Now, I say my opinion because there's only so much we can say for definite, but 2012 was when Blasey Ford was in therapy. That was before Trump's nomination before he even thought about running for president, and he was just a cartoon on The Simpsons. This is BS.
I will not be intimidated into withdrawing from this process. You've tried hard.
Oh, there's more of that tough talk.
You've given it your all. No one can question your effort.
Why are you nodding to that?
Your coordinated and well-funded effort to destroy my good name and destroy my family will not drive me out. The vile threats of violence against my family will not drive me out. You may defeat me in the final vote, but you'll never get me to quit. Never. I'm here today to tell the truth. I've never sexually assaulted anyone. Not in high school, not in college.
Not buying it.
Not ever. Sexual assault is horrific. One of my closest friends to this day is a woman who was sexually abused and who in the 1990s, when we were in our 30s, confided in me about the abuse and sought my advice. I was one of the only people she consulted. Allegations of sexual assault must always be taken seriously, always.
So have the
Those who
FBI
make
investigate.
allegations always deserve to be heard. At the same time, the person who is the subject of the allegations also deserves to be heard. Due process is a foundation of the American rule of law.
Okay, I do agree with that part. Both sides do need to be heard. In this situation, the build-up that we've had is it's staying as a he said, she said. That's not both sides being heard. Well, okay, technically it is. But we need more than he said, she said. We need an actual result at the end of this. It's no good just having he said, she said. There actually has to be an outcome. Either it happened and Kavanaugh is a repulsive human being and should not be made Supreme Court Justice, or it didn't happen and he should have his name cleared. Either way, an FBI investigation will go to great lengths to clear that, but Trump is very much against it. All the senators backing him are very much against it. And despite what he said, Kavanaugh isn't actually supporting or pushing for it.
Due process means listening to both sides. As I told you at my hearing 3 weeks ago, I'm the only child of Martha and Ed Kavanaugh. They are here today. When I was 10, my mom went to law school, and as a lawyer, she worked hard and overcame barriers, including the workplace sexual harassment that so many women faced at the time and still face today. She became a trailblazer, one of Maryland's earliest women prosecutors and trial judges.
Okay, I'm not going to mock him for getting emotional, and he clearly is getting emotional over this. But what your parents did, didn't do, went through, didn't go through, doesn't absolve you of actions. I'm pretty sure Charles Manson's parents didn't teach him the intricacies of building cults and murdering people. Bringing up this kind of family relations and things like that, it's one of two things. Either it's building on your own character, or it's saying, hey, look, you know, my parents went through this. Why would I? And trying to get that emotional response from people, because emotional people typically don't make good decisions.
And my dad taught me the importance of equality and respect for all people, and she inspired me to be a lawyer and a judge. Last time I was here, I told you that when my mom was a prosecutor and I was in high school, she used to practice her closing arguments at the dining room table on my dad and me.
So?
As I told you, her trademark line was, use your common sense. What rings true? What rings false? Her trademark line is a good reminder as we sit here today some 36 years after the alleged event occurred, when there is no corroboration, and indeed it is refuted by the people allegedly there. After I have been in the public arena for 26...
Okay. Common sense. Why bring this up now? Common sense. Why bring this up in a therapy session in 2012 when there is no possible way to know that this would happen? Common sense. Why would we have quite a large number of people in the school and colleges that Kavanaugh went to and hung around with saying, yeah, we heard that story? Bit by bit, on an individual basis, it's not that strong, but everything together paints a very clear picture of the kind of man this person is. And the strongest bit, in my opinion, is Dr. Ford going through that therapy in 2012. 2012, there was no way anyone would predict that in 2018, this would be the situation anyone was in. Common sense.
6 years without even a hint, a whiff of an allegation like this. And when my nomination to the Supreme Court was just about to be voted on, at a time when I'm called evil by a Democratic member of this committee, while Democratic opponents of my nomination say people will die if I am confirmed.
Probably true.
This onslaught of last-minute allegations does not ring true. I'm not questioning that Dr. Ford may have been sexually assaulted by some person in some place at some time. But I have never done this to her or to anyone. That's not who I am. It is not who I was. I am innocent of this charge. I intend no ill will to Dr. Ford and her family. The other night, Ashley and my daughter Liza said their prayers. And little Liza, all 10 years old, said to Ashley, we should pray for the woman. It's a lot of wisdom from a 10-year-old. We mean no ill.
Okay, again, I'm not going to mock the guy from getting emotional. Slightly odd that he keeps checking the speech that he wrote himself, but why are you bringing up your children? It's very, very simple. This, if you're an innocent person, this is very simple. You come out, you get accused, you say, no, I didn't do it. Let's let the FBI do a thorough investigation, because I know I'm completely innocent. Why bring up your mum and dad? Why bring up your kids? Why bring up your 10-year-old daughter praying? This is clever, but this is still bullshit.
Oh well. First, let's start with my career.
Oof.
For the last 26 years, since 1992, I've served in many high-profile and sensitive government positions, for which the FBI has investigated my background 6 separate times. 6 separate FBI backgrounds.
I work in care. Every care job I've had, I've been investigated every single time to get the job. It's common practice. The FBI doesn't go all the way back to school. Doesn't go all the way back to college. It does a fairly shallow check, and if something comes up, then they do a decent, a further investigation for it. But that really just means you weren't arrested for rape. It doesn't mean that you didn't do it. It doesn't mean that you didn't attempt it. It just means that you weren't arrested for it.
Investigations over 26 years, all of them after the event alleged here. I've been in the public arena and under extreme public scrutiny for decades. In 1992, I worked for the Office of Solicitor General in the Department of Justice. In 1993, I clerked on the Supreme Court for Justice Anthony Kennedy. I spent 4 years in the Independent Counsel's Office during the 1990s. That office was the subject of enormous scrutiny from the media and the public.
Okay, this is just building up his
During
rep.
1998, the year of the impeachment of President Clinton, our office generally, and I personally, were in the middle of an intense national media and political spotlight. I and other leading members of Ken Starr's office were opposition researched from head to toe, from birth through the present day. Recall the people who were exposed that year of 1998 as having engaged in some sexual wrongdoing or indiscretions in their past. One person on the left even paid $1 million for people to report evidence of sexual wrongdoing, and it worked. Exposed some prominent people. Nothing about me. From 2001 to 2006, I worked for President George W. Bush in the White House. As staff secretary, I was by President Bush's side for 3 years and was entrusted with the nation's most sensitive secrets. I traveled on Air Force One all over the country and the world with President Bush.
So? I
went everywhere with him, from Texas to Pakistan, from Alaska to Australia, from Buckingham Palace to the Vatican. 3 years in the West Wing, 5.5 years in the White House. I was then nominated to be a judge on the D.C. Circuit. I was thoroughly vetted by the White House, the FBI, the American Bar Association, and this committee. I sat before this committee for 2 thorough confirmation hearings in 2004 and 2006. For the past 12 years leading up to my nomination for this job, I've served in a very public arena as a federal judge on what is often referred to as the second most important court in the country. I've handled some of the most significant and sensitive cases affecting the lives and liberties of the American people. I've been a good judge. And for this nomination, another FBI background investigation, another American Bar Association investigation, 31 hours of hearings, 65 senator meetings, 1,200 written questions, more than all previous Supreme Court nominees combined. Throughout that entire time, throughout my 53 years and 7 months on this earth until last week, no one ever accused me of any kind of sexual misconduct. No one, ever. A lifetime of public service and a lifetime of high-profile public service at the highest levels of American government. And never a hint of anything of this kind. And that's because nothing of this kind ever happened. Second, let's turn to specifics.
Oh my God, that was just one point.
I categorically and unequivocally deny the allegation against me by Dr. Ford. I never had any sexual or physical encounter of any kind with Dr. Ford. I never attended a gathering like the one Dr. Ford describes in her allegation.
Dr. Ford took a polygraph test, a lie detector test. She passed it. So again, either she can see the future and is amazing at passing lie detector tests, or Kavanaugh's lying. As he said not that long ago, common sense.
I've never sexually assaulted Dr. Ford or anyone. Again, I'm not questioning that Dr. Ford may have been sexually assaulted by some person in some place at some time. but I've never done that to her or to anyone. Dr. Ford's allegation stems from a party that she alleges occurred during the summer of 1982, 36 years ago. I was 17 years old, between my junior and senior years of high school at Georgetown Prep, a rigorous all-boys Catholic Jesuit high school in Rockville, Maryland.
Okay, two bits to that. First off, he keeps bringing it up that it was a Catholic school. Catholics have done some pretty shitty things. And it's not really a good defense unless, you are a Catholic that denies all of the horrible things that the Catholic Church has done. Secondly, he's very, very much sticking to this script to the point where a lot of his breaks in speech, a lot of his cadences are determined by letters on a page. I know it was just quickly, but just then he couldn't finish the sentence because he hadn't got to the next page. Maybe that's just me nitpicking with that one, but no, this is ringing a lot of alarm bells.
When my friends and I spent time together at parties on weekends, it was usually with friends from nearby Catholic all-girls high schools: Stone Ridge, Holy Child, Visitation, Immaculata, Holy Cross. Dr. Ford did not attend one of those schools. She attended an independent private school named Holton Arms, and she was a year behind me. She and I did not travel in the same social circles. It is possible that we met at some point, at some events, although I do not recall that. To repeat, all of the people identified by Dr. Ford as being present at the party have said they do not remember any such party ever happening. Importantly, her friend, Ms. Kaiser, has not only denied knowledge of the party, Ms. Kaiser said under penalty of felony, she does not know me, does not recall ever being at a party with me ever.
Okay, I didn't see that bit before, but assuming that that's true, that's not saying, no, it didn't happen. That's just saying, I didn't see it happen. I don't know about it happening. That's very, very different. I didn't see my brother throw my bike into a bush, but it definitely happened, and I'm definitely one bike down because of it.
And my two male friends who were allegedly there, who knew me well, have told this committee under penalty of felony that they do not recall any such party and that I never did or would do anything like this.
Okay, again, one of these friends, one of them is something Judge. Sorry, I can't remember his full name. One of them is accused of shutting the door and turning the music up while Kavanaugh attempts to rape Dr. Ford. So he's not going to come out and say, yeah, we definitely tried to rape that girl. No, that's not going to happen. Secondly, they're very clear in the language. Don't recall, not the type of person. These are very, very weak defenses when you have the strong accusations against him. If he was innocent, I very much doubt this would be the kind of thing he would come out and say, because it's pathetically weak and very dim.
Dr. Ford's allegation is not merely uncorroborated. It is refuted by the very people she says were there, including by a longtime friend of hers. Refuted. Third, Dr. Ford has said that this event occurred at a house near Columbia Country Club, which is at the corner of Connecticut Avenue and East-West Highway in Chevy Chase, Maryland. In her letter to Senator Feinstein, she said that there were 4 other people at the house, but none of those people nor I lived near Columbia Country Club. As of the summer of 1982, Dr. Ford was 15 and could not drive yet. She did not live near Columbia Country Club. She says confidently that she had one beer at the party, but she does not say how she got to the house in question, or how she got home, or whose house it was.
Okay, pause it there. So you're a little bit away from the empty house, the party house. Does that mean you don't go? Been to parties in Maidstone, in Margate, in London. I live pretty damn far away from those places. And as a kid, okay, you don't have to remember everything. I don't remember coming back from a lot of those parties. But that is a pathetic defense. Absolutely pathetic.
Fourth, I've submitted to this committee detailed calendars recording my activities in the summer of 1982. Why did I keep calendars? My dad started keeping detailed calendars of his life in 1978.
Okay. I'm going to stop it before he comes out with anything else about that. Again, this is playing on emotion. This is, oh, my dad's a great guy. Oh, my mum's a great guy. Oh, we're all so great. With lots of emotion. Just because your dad kept calendars, does that mean that a 17-year-old kid would keep calendars of everything he's doing? And even if he did, does that also mean that this 17-year-old kid is only ever going to do what's on the calendar? Almost everyone Kavanaugh went to school with and went to college with said he was part of that drinking thing. That he was in the group that would go out and drink, that would make the shitty jokes, that would do all that typical frat boy crap. So right now he's arguing with reality. He's arguing with what so many people are already saying. Using his logic, common sense, why are all these people who are not politically identified or politically leaning in either way going to throw up so much fuss about Supreme Court justice? Now, I know it's an important job, but why the hell would you try and sabotage someone you went to school with just for what?
He did so as both a calendar and a diary. Very organized guy, to put it mildly.
Okay, I said I wasn't going to mock him for all this emotion, but for fuck's sake, come on. Jesus Christ. Why is this getting him emotional? Is there something I'm legitimately missing? Because he said that his mum and dad are there. His parents are there, so it's not like he's remembering them because they've passed. They're both there. Why is he getting so emotional because his dad kept calendars?
Christmas time, we sit around and he regales with old stories. Old milestones, old weddings, old events from his calendars. In ninth grade, in 1980, I started keeping calendars of my own. For me also, it's both a calendar and a diary. I've kept such calendars, diaries for the last 38 years.
Dear God, that voice.
Mine are not as good as my dad's.
Oh.
In some years. And when I was a kid, the calendars are about what you would expect from a kid. Some goofy parts, some embarrassing parts. But I did have the summer of 1982 documented pretty well. The event described by Dr. Ford presumably happened on a weekend, because I believe everyone worked and had jobs in the summers. And in any event, a drunken early evening event of the kind she describes presumably happened on a weekend. If it was a weekend, my calendars show that I was out of town almost every weekend night before football training camp started in late August. The only weekend nights that I was in DC were Friday, June 4, when I was with my dad at a pro golf tournament.
And that's what got you emotional. Dear God. Okay. It keeps doing wide shots and showing a few people behind him, and I'm assuming family members. But there's a woman, a blonde woman, who seems to be crying more than he is. Actually full on blown tears, trying to keep it all together. Now, I don't know who she is. Perhaps she is a relative of Ford, but considering that she's so close to Kavanaugh, I would assume she has something to do with him, especially as I've seen her smile a few times while looking at him. What is with all the emotion? Is this just me being a bit of a knob? But this can be resolved in a very short paragraph. I didn't do it. Have the FBI do a proper, extensive investigation into it. They've done it before in similar circumstances. They've done it before in similar cases, and they've done it before while Supreme Court Justice nominees have been done. Republicans under Obama blocked a Supreme Court nominee, well, till long after Obama was out the White House. This is fucking ridiculous.
Had my high school achievement test at 8:30 the next morning. I also was in DC on Saturday night, August 7th, but I was at a small gathering at Becky's house in Rockville with Matt, Denise, Lori, and Jenny. Their names are all listed on my calendar. I won't use their last names here.
Good. Creepy.
And then on the weekend of August 20 to 22nd, I was staying at the Garrett's with Pat and Chris as we did final preparations for football training camp that began on Sunday the 22nd. As the calendars confirmed, that weekend before a brutal football training camp schedule was no time for parties. So let me emphasize this point. If the party described by Dr. Ford happened in the summer of 1982 on a weekend night, my calendar shows all but definitively that I was not there. During the weekdays in the summer of 1982,
to be
as
honest.
you can see, I was out of town for 2 weeks of the summer for a trip to the beach with friends and at the legendary 5-star basketball camp in Honesdale, Pennsylvania. When I was in town, I spent much of my time working out, lifting weights, playing basketball, or hanging out and having some beers with friends as we talked about life and football and school and girls. Some have noticed that I didn't have church on Sundays on my calendars. I also didn't list brushing my teeth. And for me, going to church on Sundays was like brushing my teeth. Automatic. Still is.
Okay, hang on. That is just a play to people in the room who are religious. That's it. That is just a play to Catholics. Because when you're part of any kind of religious group, you expect that protection. And we've seen it from Catholics that point blank deny the unbelievably grotesque protection that the Catholic Church gives to paedophiles. That is all that is. That is, hey, I'm a good Catholic boy. You know me, vote for me. That's all that crap is. Now, I know America is a much, much more religious country than the UK, but what the hell is the relevance of that? A calendar is not set in stone. And let's face it, even if you did carve it into stone, it doesn't mean it actually happened. It doesn't mean that every single word, every single letter of that calendar is 100% true. It was written by someone who is also denying that he tried to force himself on a young girl. It is written by a man who has been proved to be lying.
In the summer of 1981, I had worked construction. In the summer of 1982, my job was cutting lawns. I had my own business of sorts.
Relevance.
You see some specifics about the lawn cutting listed on the August calendar page. When I had to time the last lawn cuttings of the summer of various lawns before football training camp. I played in a lot of summer league basketball games for the Georgetown prep team at night at Blair High School in Silver Spring.
Okay, that's relevant. That actually means something. We're playing basketball at night. It cuts down on party times. That's relevant information. I would much rather him fill this testimony, or this opening statement, full of things like that, rather than, I'm a Catholic boy. My mum served in law. My dad kept calendars. No, that's padding. Don't tell me about your daughter praying. I want relevant information. That's relevant. Fair's fair. That's relevant.
Many nights I worked out with other guys at Tobin's house.
Why is he getting so emotional about this?
He was the great quarterback on our football team. And his dad ran workouts.
Again, it's like all these people have died. They've not. They're still knocking about.
Or lifted weights at Georgetown Prep in preparation for the football season. I attended and watched many sporting events, as is my habit to this day. The calendars show a few weekday gatherings at friends' houses after a workout or just to meet up and have some beers. But none of those gatherings included the group of people that Dr. Ford has identified. As my calendars show, I was very precise about listing who was there. Very precise. And keep in mind, my calendars also were diaries of sorts, forward-looking and backward-looking, just like my dad's. You can see, for example, that I crossed out missed workouts and the canceled doctor's appointments, and that I listed the precise people who had shown up for certain events.
I just want to pause it there, because if you were a rapist, why the hell would you write it down in any form of diary? He does have a few good points. I mean, credit where credit's due, and trying to play as fair as you possibly can. He does come out with a few good points. But again, saying just because it wasn't on a calendar or in a diary doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means you didn't write it down.
The calendars are obviously not dispositive on their own, but they are another piece of evidence in the mix for you to consider.
You really don't have much. Right, if you're that thirsty, just stop talking.
Fifth,
most of this is filler.
Dr. Ford's allegation is radically inconsistent with my record and my character from my youth to the present day. As students at...
Okay, let's put a pin in that, okay? It's not a if you actually go back to what good, competent journalists have done and spoken to a lot of people, by the way, the 65 women who came out saying, "Oh no, Brett's great," 2 of them dropped out because of the 2 new allegations against him. But if you go back and actually talk to people who were at the school, they say, well, actually, yeah, we heard these stories. We heard this happen. We weren't there for it. We didn't see it, but there were stories. We heard this happen. So that is nonsense.
An all-boys Catholic Jesuit school, many of us became friends.
Again, playing on
and
religion.
remain friends to this day with students at local Catholic all-girls schools. One feature of my life that has remained true to the present day
Don't bring
is that I've
Catholicism.
always had a lot of close female friends. I'm not talking about girlfriends. I'm talking about friends who are women.
Fairly good point.
That started in high school. Maybe it was because I'm an only child and had no sisters. But anyway, we had no social media or text or email, and we talked on the phone. I remember talking almost every night, it seemed, to my friends Amy or Julie. Or Kristen, or Karen, or Suzanne, or Maura, or Megan, or Nikki. The list goes on. Friends for a lifetime, built on a foundation of talking through school and life, starting at age 14.
This whiny
Several
voice
of
is
those
doing my
great
head in.
women are in the seats right behind me today. My friends and I sometimes got together and had parties on weekends. The drinking age was 18 in Maryland for most of my time in high school and was 18 in DC for all of my time in high school. I drank beer with my friends. Almost everyone did. Sometimes I had too many beers. Sometimes others did. I liked beer. I still like beer. I drank beer to the point of blacking out, and I never sexually assaulted anyone. There is a bright line between drinking beer, which I gladly do, and which I fully embrace, and sexually assaulting someone, which is a violent crime. If every American...
Okay, yes, there is that line. But he's bringing it up to try and get sympathy, to try and humanize him. Maybe he did write this himself, but he has definitely had a lot of advice. He has definitely had a lot of input, because most of what he said in the half hour he's been talking, oh my god, we're coming up to an hour, Jesus. Okay, most of what he said in the half hour he's been talking is relatable. He's trying to be relatable. He's trying to be your friend. He's trying to make you think, because he's that friendly guy you've always known and cared about, this can't possibly be true. Rather than putting up actual substance. The calendars, while not perfect, are actual substance. Basketball games at night are actual substance. But most of this has just been, I'm relatable, I'm just like you, I'm your good Catholic neighbour, I'm your good Catholic friend next door. That's what the majority of this is, and it is a piss poor, weak defence. Now, at the end of this, he's not going to go to prison, but that's essentially what this is. This is his defence, and it is shockingly reminiscent of someone who is guilty. Because you don't become this likable figure throughout your defence unless you have nothing else to fall back on. Again, if he was completely innocent, he would insist the FBI take a much closer, much deeper investigation into this, which he has not done.
Who drinks beer, or every American who drank beer in high school, is suddenly presumed guilty of sexual assault, will be an ugly new place in this country.
But there is a massive rape culture in America.
Sexual assault.
Less than 30% of women come forward, because when they do come forward, they are bullied.
We sometimes did goofy or stupid things. I doubt we are alone in looking back at high school and cringing at some things. For one thing, our yearbook was a disaster. I think some editors and students wanted the yearbook to be some combination of Animal House, Caddyshack, and Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which were all recent movies at that time. Many of us went along in the yearbook to the point of absurdity. This past week, my friends and I have cringed.
For God's sake, man, come on. Drinking water again. Okay, I'm going to pause it there. I don't know if he's going to go into it, but there was something in the yearbook. He signed something, and it turns out that every guy who signed this particular slogan, I'm sorry, I don't remember what exactly it was, but everyone who had signed that in their yearbook meant that they had slept with one particular girl. Now, this girl had considered herself a lifelong friend of Brett Kavanaugh. They had not slept together, according to her accounts, but she was horrified to find out that that's what it meant. That's a strong indication of the kind of man that Brett Kavanaugh is. The typical bro dude, not the Catholic friend next door who's never done anything wrong. This is a man who will lie, who will cheat, who will say that he slept with a woman, even if he hasn't, just to look good in front of his mates. And now, the son of a bitch is... It's like he's forcing crocodile tears